This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be a part of the program, I am happy to have you. In fact, I think I want to start with a phone call here in Jacksonville, Florida. David, I want to go to you next on the show. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Well, first of all, I want to say congratulations, because I remember when you were just broadcasting pretty much within Georgia, and then when you said you were broadcasting to millions, that's just crazy great success. And it's
Look,
nice to have someone.
I appreciate it, and I'm glad you called that, because I was looking at the numbers the other day, and there's something like 3 to 4 million people who listen to me, which I find it absurd, in all honesty. One, that anybody would want to listen to this voice, but two, it's really weird, actually very surreal to think about. So thank you.
But anyway, you use a lot of data when you give your opinion, and I think that's appreciated. I think we all hear enough of how I feel, so to speak. But what I called about was what had to do with parental involvement in school, especially elementary school. You can look up on any Google search you want to do, and schools that have higher parental involvement tend to do well. And I got a feeling that's probably reflective of income, but I mean, higher income tend to do that, but not necessarily. And if everybody who's got a kid in elementary school, and I know it's hard on some folks, would dedicate one day a year, if you can, to be in the school and help in your child's class or whatever. If you've got 300 and something kids in elementary school, that would be 300 days that the parents would be there, and they know you're there, and it makes a big difference. And if somebody else in your school would just volunteer to coordinate that, to make sure somebody was there, make the phone calls, hey, that is unbelievable. And I think
so, okay, David, there's actually data on this. You talk about me using data. There is data on this. So after Katrina blew through South Louisiana and wiped out New Orleans, the state had to, they did not have a choice. They had to let the Catholic Archdiocese of New Orleans take back educating all the school kids in South Louisiana. And in doing so, the Archdiocese mandated parental involvement, and companies throughout South Louisiana, New Orleans alike, upended schedules so that parents could comply with the mandates of the church and their involvement in the local Catholic schools until the public schools could come back online. And guess what? Even the poorest of the poor, the kids' grades went up. We underestimate parental involvement in school, but it's so necessary. And in fact, honestly, I'm a free market guy. I'm a conservative. I'm a small government guy. And David, thanks for the phone call. I'll just say this. I'm not opposed to laws that protect a parent's ability on occasion to leave work without penalty to go participate in school with their kid. In fact, I think we would all be better off if more parents were more engaged in schooling than not. I think there's something to be said for that. And the fact that we don't prioritize that. So, I'm not a big fan of American Compass, which is Orrin Cass's group. They're actually progressives who are packaging themselves as conservatives. Marco Rubio has been intrigued with some of their stuff, and one of the things Rubio has been really intrigued by, as I mute the mic to sneeze, is some of the ideas related to blue laws and parental time off. I think it's Rubio who has advocated this. Like, for example, there are businesses, fast food. Let's take a fast food restaurant. Why do they need to be open on Sunday? Chick-fil-A does just fine. Now, you can say, well, hungry people traveling need it. I get that, but not all of them need to be. There is a movement afoot among some on the right to re-engage with blue laws, not the you can't sell alcohol on a Saturday or on a Sunday thing, but we should find a way to incentivize businesses to take one day and close so that their employees can have a day of rest, like Chick-fil-A does. Now, it has an impact at Chick-fil-A. It's a highly profitable business. It is not open on a Sunday except in rare emergency. When Hurricane Michael blew through South Georgia, North Florida a while back, several years ago, I guess 2013, 14 maybe, Chick-fil-A was open on Sunday to serve relief workers, things like that. I remember when I was a kid, back in the day, get off my lawn, a whole lot of businesses were not open on Sunday. And now many of the businesses that were closed on Sunday are open. I have to tell you selfishly, as someone who does my grocery shopping on a Sunday afternoon, I appreciate them all being open on Sunday. But I would rearrange my life, I think, if businesses were closed on Sunday. Same with parental involvement in schools. Parents need to be involved in their kids' school. And having parental involvement in kids' schools is a good thing. And finding a way for businesses to accommodate parental involvement in schools, that too would be a good thing if we could find a way to make it work. I think it would be better for society if we could find ways to have parents more involved. But can I also be real honest here? Y'all know I'm telling the truth. You may not want to admit that I'm telling the truth, but you know I'm telling the truth. There are some good-for-nothing parents out there who, if the government paid them to show up at their kid's school, would try to find a way to take the money without ever showing up at their kid's school. They are in the minority. But this is part of the problem I see with school choice. Now, you know I'm a supporter of school choice, so I can talk frankly about this to you. Inevitably, what's going to happen over time is that all the people who have the means and ability to get their kids out of a public school are going to, and so the public school teachers are essentially going to be running the inmates in an asylum of kids whose parents are uninvolved, don't want to be involved, and do not care, and those are the worst performing kids. And it's going to be harder and harder to staff public schools with good teachers when that's the case. That being said, I would prefer that to having all the good kids have to be piled up in these schools with all the bad kids. If there are parents who want their kids to get a better education, we should allow those people to escape the public schools. The public schools are failing. I saw one of the Chicago Teachers Union presidents saying that, there's an effort now to provide scholarships from conservatives for non-white kids to get into Christian schools in the Chicago area because schools have gotten so bad. And the Chicago Teachers Union president has responded by saying, actually, conservatives don't want black kids to be able to read. They want them to know how to pick cotton or some such. It was some outrageous comment like that. Just deeply racist comment mischaracterizing people on the right and their values because this woman hates conservatives so much. It is always remarkable. I mean, this gets back to Condi Rice's point. That the number of people who preach in support of public schools and denounce school choice, and they all send their kids to private school. Why can't we allow all the other kids to go to private school as well? All right, Tim, you're going to be up next. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Eric. I got to tell you, I've been listening to you about parents' involvement in school, and I'm the owner of a small little AC company. I got 21 people, not all of them are parents. So I got to figure this out. I'm going to do this. But, I think I'm going to look into giving them one, maybe if it works, 2 days off a year paid to go to school and participate in school. So
Well,
I'm thinking about, and I'm going to do that for employees who aren't parents. They may scream and say, "What about us?" But I don't know. But I like that.
Look, you got to figure out the ramifications of that. But listen, I think if employers did that and said, "Look, go be a volunteer at your kid's school for a day, or just go have lunch at school with your kid or something," I think it would be a good thing. I, by virtue of largely being self-employed, I got to do those things with my kids. A lot of employees don't. Now, Tim, I will tell you the upside in your business is that at least the schools are closed in the summer when you are being overwhelmed with phone calls saying, "Oh my gosh, my air conditioner's broke, come fix it." But
that's true.
Yeah, that is okay.
We only like pleasant weather after 5 and on the weekends.
Hey, now, okay, so Tim, I'm going to hold you hostage on the phone, and we're going to go off the beaten path here with you because you do ACs and stuff. Are you up on all these changes the feds want people to make about their AC units and stuff? Because I keep hearing that the new stuff coming down the pike is coming down the line is more expensive and doesn't cool nearly as well, and I'm a little bit concerned when I got to replace my AC.
Well, I don't know how well they perform. Haven't seen them perform. We have been to classes and informative training sessions, and the reason they're going to be so much expensive now, they're filled with either propane, butane, or a combination of both flammable gases.
Wow.
Which is actually a great refrigerant.
Uh-huh.
But because it's flammable, the ACs now have to have special equipment installed to sense a leak, which shuts the system down, making it thus more expensive.
Oh,
Great global warming, the type of refrigerants have no global warming effect, but they are going to become expensive.
And explosive, too. Wow.
Now, the reports are they've been using this in Europe and Asia for many, many years, and they've never had a serious injury or a death as a result.
Well, that's good to know. That is good. I'm always skeptical of these new things that they're pushing on us, but that's at least good to know. All right, look, I appreciate it. If you can make this work, call us back and let us know. But I also understand you do have single employees. They're going to say, "What about me?" And of course, your message can be, "Well, get married and have kids."
Well, maybe I can that'll incentivize them to go get married and settle down and not be late on Mondays.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, Tim, thanks very much for the phone call. Look, I think if you can make it work as a small business owner, I think it's a good idea. Now, be aware the lawyer in me is screaming out, "Warning, warning, warning. Be careful. Make sure you can pull this off." But all of the data shows parental involvement in school boosts grades. And it transcends race and it transcends income. The poorest of the poor, if the parents can be involved in schools, their kids' grades go up. The problem we have as a society are the number of people who are parents by virtue of they had a sexual encounter and got pregnant and didn't do anything. God bless them for not aborting the child, but also they are uninvolved parents and didn't want to be a parent. And that's terrible to say, but every single one of us knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then they pass their kids off to preschool or elementary school government-funded program, and the school serves as a babysitter for the day. How do we change those hearts and minds of those people to want to be better parents and be involved? And I don't know that I have the answer to that, but we as a society have got to figure out a way to get parents more involved in the education of their kids. What our kids' school has done is the parents, for field trips and stuff, the parents have to do it. No buses, no chaperone, no paid bus or school bus driver. The parents got to be involved. They got to go on the field trips and things like that, and also make sure the kids are better behaved too. But it's just it's kind of been fun as a parent to be forced by the school to be involved in things we otherwise wouldn't have to be because we could have made an excuse otherwise. And yet we've had to be there for these great moments with kids, but also we sometimes just showed up. And either we went to the class and we were the secret reading person for the day, or we were just there to have lunch with our kid and be a part of school. It's a good thing if you can make that work. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Fred Bauer, writing over at Unheard, has a piece on the problems with Joe Biden's threat to democracy attack. He writes, there's a deeper paradox within a Biden effort to make democracy preservation the centerpiece of his campaign. If the president really believed that Trump was an existential imminent threat to American democracy, he would have long ago pivoted to the center on many identity issues, which are a drag on his numbers and splinter the anti-Trump coalition. The breakdown at the border, for instance, has long been an obvious danger to his reelection bid, but Biden for years refused to take action to address it. Instead of seeing Trump as a reason to moderate, progressive activists instead often used him as an excuse to avoid moderation. It's our way or the end of our democracy. Catastrophism's cowbell clang is an extension of the strategy. He's right. If Biden really believed that Donald Trump was an existential threat to democracy, Joe Biden would be trying to build a greater coalition than of the progressive base of the Democratic Party, and he's not. They're essentially trying to do a little bit of theater here to force your hand to vote for Joe Biden to save democracy, while refusing to pivot to give you any other excuse to vote for Joe Biden, so that if he wins, they can say, mandate. We have a mandate for progressive change in America. If you go down the road of voting for Joe Biden in 2024 because you don't like Trump, you need to at least understand what's going to happen is progressives will have no checks on their power. Joe Biden will say, you know what? I ran as a progressive and I won. So it's going to be progressivism here on out. The further left they move, the better off they think they'll be. There's no reasonable check on this from the Biden administration in any way, shape, or form. And that's the problem here. If you really do believe that Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy, then you should be toning down the progressivism to build as broad a coalition as possible. And that you're not is kind of an admission against interest that you really don't believe he is a threat to democracy. Now, we need to talk about threats to you, like your computer. What happens if your computer breaks? What happens if it's slow? What happens if you got the latest software, you got the latest game, and it doesn't work well? Well, Vision Computers can build you a better computer, and they can make it upgradable so you're not having to constantly buy computers as new technology evolves, and you get their award-winning service. 404 Compute, all you do, call them, 404 Compute. Here's the thing, though. Let's say you got a computer and you got frustrations with it, but you don't want to get rid of it, or you're a small business and you can't afford the in-house IT guy, but you need help with your computers. Vision Computers can do that for you as well. $179 a year per computer. A year, not a month, not a day, not a week, a year. And you don't have to have bought your computers from Vision. If you bought them, this comes with it. Otherwise, 15 seconds or less, you still get the answer to your questions faster than Google search. Vision Computers helps you with your computer needs. All you do is call them at 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com. If you tell Vision Computers you're coming because you heard me talk about them, they're going to save you even more money. So feel free to name drop me and say, my friend Eric Erickson said to come. 404 Compute, that's where you call them. They can be your in-house IT for your small business, for your home. They can help you with your computers. They can build you new computers. They can save you money. They can save you time. They can save you headache. VisionComputers.com or 404 Compute. Call them and tell them I sent you. I am here in my office with a stack of my new book, You Shall Be As Gods. I have done a whirlwind media tour today. I did an interview with Megyn Kelly. I will do Andrew Sullivan this afternoon. Jeff Katz tomorrow. I was on WDBO in Orlando this morning, WHIO in Ohio. Have several more. I've got to do CNN tonight at 7:20. It's just a wild ride to get this book launched. Thanks to all of you who ordered it. If you'd like a copy of it, you can text the word data to 33777. I will send you back a link and order the book. It'll be the second of the two links. The first one's the show notes. Now, I need to get into a subject that I talk about to begin with. I want to play for you an excerpt of 60 Minutes. And I need you to keep some perspective as you're listening to it. The Saudi Arabians have been an ally of the United States for a very long time, and the Iranians are hostile to the Saudis. The Iranians began funding the Houthi rebels of Yemen, who are engaged in a civil war in Yemen. Donald Trump, in response to, after a series of Houthi attacks on Saudi Arabia and American interests, placed them on the terror list, imposed sanctions on them. The very first day, and that's not an exaggeration, it actually was on the first day of his tenure in office, January 20th, 2021, Joe Biden decided to undo all of Donald Trump's agenda, and in so doing, he took the Houthi off the terror list. The Houthi remain off the terror list. This is CBS's 60 Minutes.
Initially, the Houthis, backed by Iran, stated they would only shoot at ships linked to Israel in support of the Palestinian people and to force a ceasefire in Gaza. Their ultimate political aims, as well as their actual aim, appears to be less precise. They have fired at ships tied to dozens of nations. The Houthis' official motto is "God is great, death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews, victory to Islam." While their slogan may not be new, their weapons and tactics are, according to Admiral Cooper.
The Houthis are the first entity in the history of the world to use anti-ship ballistic missiles ever firing against shipping.
No one has ever used
No one has ever used an anti-ship ballistic missile, certainly against commercial shipping, much less against U.S. Navy ships.
Admiral Cooper took us inside the 5th Fleet's command center at Naval Headquarters in Bahrain.
I think there's a sense that the Houthis are sort of like a ragtag kind of terrorist group.
Yeah. That can be a sense, and it would be a false sense, and we would be unwise to consider that. 10 years of being supplied by the Iranians, very sophisticated advanced weapons. They have hit a few ships.
Of those targets, how many of them are directed at U.S. naval assets?
The overwhelming majority over these last couple of months have been directed at internationally flagged merchant ships. A small percentage of them are directly at U.S. Navy ships.
What kind of damage would one of those anti-ship ballistic missiles do on a commercial ship?
Well, let's go right here. This is exactly what it looks like. The Houthis attacked it, and you can see in practical terms what the damage was.
They're sinking ships in the Red Sea with anti-ship ballistic missiles. If you missed that from the Admiral, you shouldn't. The Houthi are the first group ever in the history of planet Earth. Not the Nazis, not the Soviets, not the Chinese, not the Iranians. The Houthi are the first group ever in the history of planet Earth to use anti-ship ballistic missiles. Ballistic missiles are missiles that fire a projectile with fuel and then it runs out of fuel. They're only powered during brief periods of time, and they can move very, very fast with that fuel. Intercontinental ballistic missiles, they have enough fuel, they can be fired, take off, go outside of the atmosphere, and they come back in. They're on a trajectory that then doesn't change. They run out of fuel. They move very fast. A lot of missiles are fired, but they themselves don't have fuel. They're just projectiles. They're like a bullet fired from a gun. These are actual missiles with fuel that fire and go very fast, and they're blowing up ships. They sunk another ship the other day. The Iranians haven't done this. The Iraqis didn't do it. The Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, the Houthi have done it. They've done it after coming off the terror list that Joe Biden took them off of and has refused to put them back on. Now, keep in mind, and again, this is one of the most underappreciated stories, I think, of the last 2 years, and it just shows you how the media has circled wagons around Donald Trump, or around Joe Biden, rather. His administration has been compromised by Iranian agents and spies. Semaphore documented this. They uncovered leaked documentation showing the close ties between Iran and a number of people inside the Biden administration, one of whom is the chief of staff to the assistant secretary in charge of special forces, who has very questionable ties to the Iranians. And this administration has backed the lady up and said there's no there. That's not what the documents reveal. They've also had to suspend the man who was doing their negotiations with the Iranians because he appeared to be taking classified information and giving it to people who didn't have access to it. There are lots of questions surrounding that guy's departure, but it all seems very clear that Iran compromised a lot of people and has probably compromised more. The Iranians have been funding the Houthi, and Joe Biden's administration made the call to take them off the terror list. And now shipping is delayed in the Red Sea. Another ship has been sunk. The foreign policy crises and disasters of this administration, all the things they said would happen if Donald Trump were president, are happening. Matthew Inglis is I forget how you actually pronounce his last name. He's a lefty pundit who, to a degree, has actually gotten a little radicalized by the left. He raised questions about some left-wing dogma. And essentially, the left chased him away from Vox Media where he was. He's a pretty reliable progressive. And he says all sorts of reliably progressive things and engages in the left-wing progressive dogma. And on October 11th, 2016, Matthew Iglesias tweeted to Jamal Bowie or James Bowie or whatever his name is and Rouse Douthat, both of them at the New York Times, quote, "My guess is that in a Trump administration, angry mobs will beat and murder Jews and people of color with impunity." Guess what's happening during the Biden administration? No murders necessarily, but beating of Jews. It's happening during the Biden administration. The left projects frequently. Biden said if Donald Trump remained president, the whole world would be on fire. Joe Biden is now president. The whole world is on fire, and not because of things Donald Trump did that provoked it, but because of things Joe Biden did and did not do. In Los Angeles, California, Jews are being literally chased in the streets. The president of the United States is too old and feeble to multitask debate prep and an address to the nation from Camp David. It's possible, it's physically possible for the president of the United States to address the nation from Camp David. Ronald Reagan's done it, Jimmy Carter's done it, other presidents have done it in the past. You can give a speech from Camp David. You're the president of the United States. Joe Biden has chosen to do nothing but tweet about the attacks on a synagogue and Jews in Los Angeles. He will not address the nation about this rising anti-Semitism on the left. This gets back to Fred Bauer's point from Unheard. He keeps claiming that if you support Donald Trump, it's a threat to democracy, except he's so tied to the left and progressives, it causes questions as to whether or not that's actually the case. Do you really believe it? If you believe that Donald Trump is such a threat to the United States, you should be denouncing the anti-Semitism you think he fosters, and you should be denouncing the left and finding some common ground with people on the right who might want to stop Donald Trump. But you're acting as if you don't believe it and just hope a lot of stupid people believe you. That's what's going on here. They hope a whole lot of stupid people believe them. Joe Biden has made the world less safe. And, you know, with this debate, I was talking earlier with Megyn Kelly. She's interviewing me about my book, but we were talking about the debate. These two men, they really do hate each other. And I need you all to understand that Donald Trump and Joe Biden viscerally hate each other. It's not a hypothetical. They despise one another. That's going to kind of make it fun to watch, even if I've already seen Grumpy Old Men Part 1 and 2. I'm not sure. And what's her name isn't going to be in Part 3. Oh, what was this? Anne Margaret. Yes, she was in Part 1 and Part 2. It's not going to be in Part 3. It's going to be Biden versus Trump. and they hate each other. And I hope that Donald Trump is researched enough and well-versed enough to point out to Joe Biden that the world is on fire now in ways Joe Biden said the world would be on fire if Donald Trump got reelected. Joe Biden told you if you voted for Donald Trump, Jews would be attacked on the streets. Turns out he's right. You voted for Donald Trump, Jews are now being attacked on the streets. Just Joe Biden is president of the United States. Joe Biden told you if you voted for Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin would be off the chains. Well, he's right. Vladimir Putin is now off the chains. You voted for Donald Trump, and look what happened to Vladimir Putin with Joe Biden in the White House. Joe Biden told you if you voted for Donald Trump, the world would be a more dangerous place. And guess what? You voted for Donald Trump, and the world is a more dangerous place now. All thanks to Joe Biden. The Houthi rebels who Joe Biden took off the terror list are now the first group in the history of this planet to fire anti-ship ballistic missiles at ships at sea to try to sink ships. They said they would only attack ships headed to or from Israel or flagged by Israel. They're not. They're going indiscriminately against all of them unless they're Chinese or Russian or Iranian. Joe Biden did this. Joe Biden emboldened this. Joe Biden made this possible. The world is less safe. And there should be some accountability on stage at that debate on Thursday night in Atlanta. He must be held accountable, and the American media will not hold him accountable. So it is up to Donald Trump to hold Joe Biden accountable for a world being on fire that was not on fire when Donald Trump was president of the United States. All the horrors that Joe Biden predicted would happen with Donald Trump reelected president happened on Joe Biden's watch. And Americans need to be reminded of that fact, and I hope Donald Trump will do it. Before we go on, I got to tell you as well, I mean, with the economic circumstances, going back to the first hour, Korean Jean-Pierre and grocery prices claiming they've gone down. They haven't. Now you got bank collapses. You've got others wobbly, not sure they're going to be able to make it. You got regulators wondering if they can even prop up the banks. You've got the 22-year high interest rates not yet coming down. Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years, and they've been warning people about a secret war on cash. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash from this secret war, I want you to get Swiss America's report about the secret war on cash. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. Swiss America can educate you on protecting your assets in their report, The Secret War on Cash. You can check out what they're talking about on YouTube. Go to SwissAmerica.com/YouTube. Check out their YouTube channel, SwissAmerica.com/YouTube. The report takes less than 15 minutes to read. You can get a physical copy of it. You can read it and share it. All you have to do is mention my name, Eric, when you call or text 800-289-2646. 800-289-2646. The all-out war on cash includes digital forms of currency. It is spreading daily. So go read the Secret War on Cash report completely free. Just mention me, Eric, when you call or text 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. Can I just say I despise car alarms. There's one going off outside my office right now. I don't think it can come through the microphone. I hope not, but it is going off, and like it's in a parking deck. And what's the point? Not real deterrence, I guess. All right, I got to move on to other things. Where is this? Yes. So I mentioned earlier that the latest student loan forgiveness plan by Joe Biden has been struck down by a court. Well, turns out it's two separate courts. I had missed that detail. They were both Obama-appointed judges. When Joe Biden has Obama-appointed judges striking down his student loan forgiveness plan, that's probably not a good sign. The new loan forgiveness plan, known as the SAVE plan, would have discharged $156 billion in federally backed student loan debt. It's the successor to the one the Supreme Court invalidated. While the administration claimed last year's plan was authorized by the HEROES Act, they have defended the new plan as an exercise of authority delegated by the Higher Education Act of 1965. but both plans used vague statutory language to justify a massive expenditure of funds, and both are vulnerable to attack under the major questions doctrine, which requires Congress to speak clearly when authorizing an executive branch agency to make decisions of vast economic and political significance. It was therefore foreseeable the new plan might suffer the same fate. In Missouri versus Biden, federal district judge appointed by Obama, John Ross, issued a preliminary injunction. On the merits, Judge Ross finds the SAVE plan goes beyond what the statute authorizes. In Alaska versus Department of Education, which used to be Kansas versus Biden, Judge Daniel Crabtree of the District of Kansas, also an Obama-appointed judge, came to the same conclusion that the plans go too far. Doesn't sound like any of you people who are getting your student loans forgiven by Biden unilaterally are going to actually get your student loans forgiven by Biden unilaterally, which of course makes sense. You know, we have in this country, there are so many people on the left and the right now who say we're post-constitutional. We're not really. The courts are still kind of binding us to the framework of the Constitution. The legislature of the United States of America appropriates funds, and if you're going to forgive a debt, it's got to come with congressional approval, unless the statute very clearly says unilaterally that the president himself gets to excuse the debt. That hasn't happened in student loans. In fact, when Congress passed the student loan legislation, it was inconceivable that the president of the United States would unilaterally seek to discharge debt from student borrowers. No one contemplated that we would be at the point where the president of the United States would be trying to bribe people to vote for him like this. And let's be clear here. It's bribery. The president needs every vote he can get in a very tight election. The result is a president of the United States willing to use federal purse strings extra constitutionally as best he can to get people on his side. And the courts, Democratic appointed judges, Obama appointed judges are saying, no, you can't do it. Good. It would wreak havoc on the federal debt. It's impressive to me that the best spin that the left can give is, well, technically they were appointed by Obama, but they're actually in like conservative states, so they're not as progressive as they could be because Republicans had to agree. They were appointed by Obama. They were Democrats. They were liberals. They made it through the system. They're now unaccountable because they've got life tenures, and they're rejecting student loan plans from Joe Biden. His politics is crashing in the courts, even among Obama-appointed judges. Good.